Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, Democrats and left-wing actors in the media over the last couple of years have convinced you that Russia is enemy number one. They're interfering with our elections, infiltrating the US government, Donald Trump is a Russian Manchurian candidate, yada yada yada. And well, okay, that's your argument, we get it. The question that must immediately follow is, they talk the talk, but do they walk the walk? If Russia is such a threat, an existential threat to the United States, then why is it that all Democrats, Democrat politicians, the media, the White House, are the only individuals unwilling to impose the most serious sanctions on Russia? Joe Biden is supposedly the one who's tough on Russia, the man who's standing up to Putin. But of course, interestingly enough, as the Associated Press's Ned Price pointed out,
because I think I asked the wrong question. I should have, instead of asking you what is exempted, because I've seen the list of exemptions and it's frankly huge.
The list of exemptions is frankly huge when it comes to the Biden administration's sanctions on Russia. In effect, the Biden administration is not willing to apply serious economic pressure on Russian energy. The reality is, with all the strong posturing that we're seeing from Democrats on this issue, they're actually weak, and the establishment that represents them is so utterly corrupt that they're justifying not imposing serious sanctions on Russia and even fact-checking Maria Bartiromo from Fox News Business in the most disingenuous way possible. And so that's the topic that I want to focus on for this video. I want to show you guys all the lies, all the misinformation. Let's debunk the debunkers in the Biden administration. But of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so fact checkers, of course, we've dealt with them a million times before. These are the organizations that groups like Facebook and Twitter, of course, Twitter lefties and politicians in the media use to debunk right-wing talking points. Maria Bartiromo from Fox News said on her show, "We have doubled our oil imports from Russia in the last year." PolitiFact rates, mostly false. Jacob Reyes writes, "The US did not double oil imports from Russia in the last year. The most recent data from the US Energy Information Administration shows that the US increased its oil imports from Russia by about 28% in the first 11 months of 2021. Then the second point writes, "The US did double the amount of crude oil imported from Russia last year, but Russia only accounts for only about 3% of overall US crude oil imports in 2021. Maria Bartiromo is lying, friends. The US didn't double oil imports from Russia, but actually the US did double the amount of crude oil imports from Russia, so I guess Maria Bartiromo is right. Oh, but it doesn't really matter because it's only about 3% of the overall US crude oil imports for 2021. Turns out that's also complete BS. On oilprice.com, Russia supplied 7% of US crude oil imports in late 2021, a significant number. Replacing that oil will put additional upward pressure on oil prices. The oil markets are about to get very interesting." Well, would you look at that? It turns out that the fact checkers once again are getting fact checked. It turns out that PolitiFact is focused more on politics than they are on facts, hence they live up to their name. And the trend that we're seeing, at least the politics seems to be from these left-wing actors. The goal seems to discredit anybody who's calling for the end of reliance and dependence on OPEC and Russian gas. Why would you try to maliciously and disingenuously fact-check Maria Bartiromo on this? Well, it's totally obvious. Democrats are complete hypocrites, just like they are on all of these other ethical issues. Oh, my fossil fuels, my global warming. As they continue to enable OPEC and Russian gas imports, less clean sources of energy. They talk so much about the evils of Russia and Vladimir Putin, while enabling billions of dollars to be sent to his regime. It's totally crazy. And the mental gymnastics are just out of this world. Take a look at this moment right over here with Jen Psaki.
What is the stance of the U.S. and buying Russian gas at this point? At this point, are we ready to pledge not to buy any more Russian gas?
Well, as you know, it's really, let me give you actually kind of an update on this because I think there's been a little confusion. One moment. So as it relates to Russian gas, U.S. government doesn't dictate where the U.S. market sells our own oil and gas products, nor where it acquires crude or refined products from for domestic consumption. This is all up to the private sector, other than exceptions like countries under sanctions. So the U.S. refiners currently importing Russian products are largely legacy refinery operations tooled in Hawaii and Alaska for certain supplies because of geography, and imports to the Gulf, both of certain refined products and of crude, as refiners in the Gulf mix crude supplies to meet the needs of their particular refinery designs. There have been companies, obviously private sector companies, who have made decisions and announcements, and we certainly applaud that.
Now, it sounds quite smart. I mean, she used very good words. It sounds like an expert opinion. Based on geography, Alaska's right next to Russia. They aren't able to produce enough oil themselves, so they're supplementing their market with Russian import. It's just private businesses, and only in Alaska. That's what she tells you. But it's kind of interesting because Alaska's governor, Mike Dunleavy, just came out on the record 2 days after this Jen Psaki clip and says, "Our oil is cleaner than Russia's. We can supply ourselves and our allies if we were allowed to by Biden." There you have it, folks. The mental gymnastics. Democrats want to convince you that it's just not strategic, it's not possible for us to pass sanctions on Russian oil. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is passing sanctions on domestic oil, if you really think about it, stopping federal oil leases, reducing domestic production, enabling Russian imports, and factoring into the increase in Russian imports that we've seen. The reality is it's all political, and Democrats are complete cowards. The reality is it should have been done a while ago. Joe Biden should have never lobbied Democrats to block sanctions on Russia. He should have never removed the sanctions on the Nord Stream 2. He should have never axed the Keystone XL pipeline, and he should have never stopped federal oil leases, slowing down domestic production. And now when caught in a situation where he's being called to do exactly all of that, to reverse all of his previous actions, and to actually stand strong and impose serious sanctions against the Russian government and Russian economy, well, I guess it's too late. Jen Psaki continues to say stuff like this.
We have taken steps. We have not taken some steps on energy sanctions. So sanctioning energy would affect Russia's income stream. Certainly that would be a reason to do it, but it would also have extreme consequences on the world energy markets, particularly for our allies in Europe.
The president shares the concern about any impact on gas prices, on energy prices for the American people, and that's why a range of options remain on the table. He already recently tapped into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve just last fall, which had an impact.
Now the reason why Joe Biden probably doesn't want to sanction energy is due to oil prices increasing and having a negative political impact on his political brand. We're in a situation where he's kicked the can down the road, he's made terrible foreign policy decisions, he's enabled and emboldened the Russian government to act in the way that they are, and now when faced with the tough decision to do the right thing, well, he doesn't want to do it because it's going to have negative consequences on the economy, which really, if you ask me, it's inevitable that that's going to happen. If things in Russia and Ukraine continue to escalate, well, he doesn't want the political blowback of people having to deal with high gas prices, even higher than they currently are, which is, of course, going to hurt him and Democrats at the ballot box. That's the reality. Joe Biden doesn't care about your ability to afford oil. Joe Biden's done literally everything to make oil more expensive for you. He cares about the political implications that it may have if he continues to exacerbate that same issue. In other words, he's a piece of garbage. And once again, Democrats continue to use Russia as a political tool. Republicans and their Russia connection and this, that, and the other. But why is it that it's always the Republicans, at least the good Republicans and not the rhinos, who are ahead of the curve on this? Why is it? Like Ron DeSantis, for instance.
This is a guy who's basically an authoritarian gas station attendant, okay, with some legacy nuclear weapons from the old Soviet Union. Their whole society is hollowed out except for that energy. And so if you want to hit them at the gas pump, hit them with energy.
So let me get this straight. Right-wing politicians who want to go after the Russian economy at its core, impose the toughest of sanctions, are somehow the Putin puppets, but these Democrats who want to do everything possible to avoid doing so, continue to hurt American markets. Those are the American patriots that are standing up to Russia? Give me a break. The reality is, the Democrats have been the ones who are intertwined with Russian agents, as we saw with Igor Danchenko and Hillary Clinton's corruption with the Steele dossier and all the Russian sources. Democrats are the ones with their corrupt connections to Eastern European energy lobbyist groups. Of course, we know the Hunter Biden scandal and the 10% cut for the big guy, and their constant obsession, at least on surface level, their constant demonization of Russia is nothing but a distraction. This whole Russia, Russia, Russia nonsense, aimed and pointed at the Republicans, has been pure projection from the start. At least that's how it looks like to me. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm gonna get back to work, and I'll see you on the next one.